Hi and welcome to Indigo Starfire. My name is Bevin, and in this video I'm going to be answering the question, who's headed your way and what do they want to say? So for this reading there are 4 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the Amethyst Point. Group 2 is the Black Moonstone. Group 3 is the Aventurine. And group 4 is the Obsidian Point. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you would like to jump ahead. Hi, Group 1. You chose the Amethyst Point. So I'm going to start with some tarot and looking into who's headed your way, and then we'll get into some oracle cards to see what do they want to say to you, and I also have some message cards from their higher self to get a little more clarity as far as that is concerned as well. But who's headed towards you? So we have the 8 of Cups, which is water energy, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. Page of Cups, so more water energy. Seven of Swords, which is air energy, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. 6 of Cups, so more water energy. 9 of Swords, more air energy. Wheel of Fortune, which is mutable energy, Pisces, let's see, Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius. I had to think about that one for a minute. Queen of Pentacles, which is earth energy, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. And 8 of Pentacles, so more earth energy. So it feels even that period where I had to pause and kind of like think about the signs that are associated with the Wheel of Fortune. This may be somebody that it's not the first person that you're immediately thinking of, at least when these initial cards are coming out. It feels that it may very much catch you by surprise that this person is headed your way. The idea with the 7 of Swords can talk about somebody who has ghosted you in the past, blocked you. There was a little bit of sneakiness, a little bit of deception. This may have even been somebody with 7 of Swords and Page of Cups who had suppressed or denied their feelings for you, rejected a cup of love you had to offer with the 8 of Cups and had instead turned their back upon it. And it feels like in the aftermath of that, it had left you with a deep sense of longing, regret, pining for this person, yearning for this person. With the 9 of Swords, a lot of sleepless nights, feeling very energetically connected to them and very confused as to why the connection was, continuing, why you were getting all of these maybe like signs or indicators from spirit, from the universe, a lot of telepathy going on, and then 3D conduct from this individual, in the material sense, was very different from what your instinct and intuition was telling you. The action that they had taken to reject, push away or move away, or just very kind of almost like sneaking off in the middle of the night, abruptly cutting things off, may have been a lot of difficulty for you in trying to understand this, trying to transcend this in some manner. Six of Cups does speak to, again, kind of this past energy. So maybe somebody that you were dating when you were younger. Again, it's that energy of maybe not necessarily the first person that kind of comes to your mind when this reading has come out, or if you've had some kind of expectation, a sense, or even kind of signals or indicators of a particular person headed your way. This almost feels to be kind of a curveball energy. This is kind of like a wild card energy. Someone that, maybe with this Wheel of Fortune, it was very difficult to kind of like heal, to come to terms with these things, to come to a place of peace with these things, with what had happened with this individual in the past. You have since moved on. They're kind of like out of sight, out of mind at this point in time. And so the energy of resurfacing from the past, it's kind of like, oh, I wasn't expecting to ever hear from you again. I wasn't expecting you to make things right. I had already created peace for myself out of this circumstance. But with the Eight of Pentacles, this can definitely talk about somebody who, maybe has, as well with the Queen of Pentacles, they've needed some time to mature, to come into their own. They're a little more world weary, a little more wise. Maybe tables had been turned upon them. Again, this could have been somebody from when you were younger, kind of like a young love, first love, early romance, or just a substantial amount of time may have even passed by. For some of you, with that Wheel of Fortune, this is kind of like annual energy for me. So at least a year has passed since you were last in contact with this individual. And it's almost like they've realized what they've had now that it's gone. The two of you may have matured in some way. This could even, tie into the idea of like a work connection. So a past coworker, somebody who, you had thought that there was some chemistry with, a lot of flirtation, a lot of innuendos, but no action was taken in the direction of, evolving things to the next level. And so again, this person like resurfacing in your energy, it kind of catches you off guard. Like, oh, I didn't think that you were interested. I didn't think that you would come back around. I didn't think that you would want to try and work beyond whatever difficulties or barriers or fears or hesitations or whatever it is that kind of caused almost like an energy of potential to sort of stall out before it was actualized. You didn't really think that this person, was going to have any kind of like a follow through, that they were ever going to try to make the situation right or to try to act upon that in a different kind of way. But again, it feels that whoever this is, that time may have passed, they may have come into their own, they may have needed to do some healing work within themselves, some things that they may have needed to work out within themselves as well. This Queen of Pentacles is also giving me the impression here of somebody who may have been in another relationship previously when you were dealing with them, when you were interacting with them. This may not necessarily have been, a kind of a fully fleshed out romantic connection between the two of you, but just again, sort of like this questioning of what if, this wondering, this longing, this sense of almost kind of like, I wish that this person would pick me, and maybe they chose to move in another direction. They could have then kind of built a life with somebody else, maybe even going as far as to, getting married, perhaps even starting a family with someone else. So this could be somebody resurfacing from your very distant past, where things have almost come to a sense of completion with that. They've gone out, they've seen, they've explored, they've tried different things in the world. They've had other kind of like romantic experiences, and something has kind of like come to a conclusion with that. And it's this sense of kind of like what if, circling back around to see if maybe the potential between the two of you is still viable, if this time you could make it work, or somebody who has really kind of appreciated what they have now that it is gone. But it feels that definitely, if there's still like some longing or some heartbreak, even if this was somebody you were in a romantic connection with, where again there was ghosting, there was blocking, they just kind of left you with a lot of unanswered questions, you've really put in the work, you've healed in some manner, or come to a place of peace and acceptance about the situation. So it feels almost very surprising when this person turns back up, or even the idea that they are headed towards you in some capacity, because you had just kind of written this off as a lost cause, it feels like, with the Eight of Cups, having turned your back and sort of made preparations and taken steps to sort of move in another direction. Kind of just chalking this up as something where you need to provide yourself with peace and answers, just kind of assuming that this person would never come back around, maybe because a lot of time has passed, the nature of what happened before, or even if this is a situation of somebody who may have gone and gotten in another relationship, gotten married, started a family, and it was just kind of written off as, well, maybe in the next life. And it's almost with this Wheel of Fortune, it's bringing to mind the idea of in that next life is happening a lot sooner than you might have imagined, that something has come to a completion with them. And so now they are almost trying to kind of knock on the door with you and see, can you start again? Can you start over? It may have been almost a situation of kind of like right person, wrong time, where they may have even been very sort of, again, the Six of Cups, kind of like a young energy, an immature energy. They didn't really know what they wanted. You didn't really know what you wanted. Each of you really needing your own kind of life experiences in other capacities, to where, you know, it almost was not the right formula to work. It would have been too soon. There were other sort of like lessons, karmic lessons, different kind of experiences, different things that each of you maybe needed to build toward or work toward or grow toward before the recipe would be right, or the conditions more favorable to try again, to start again. This also can tie into the idea with that Wheel of Fortune of somebody who kind of keeps cycling in and out of your life in some manner, and there's another kind of pass that they are making. They're kind of coming back around again into your world, into your reality. This may have been something that has gone on for a very long time. You've almost become accustomed kind of to this person re-emerging like clockwork, in your life, in your reality, in your existence. And something that in the past, this may have been a very jarring experience, kind of when they resurface and the chemistry's there, and it feels like the momentum is building, and there's all this kind of like reconciliatory energy that may have happened on at least one other occasion, and you were thinking that the time was right, the recipe was right, they were ready, and then maybe life circumstances, kind of unavoidable things, taking you both in different directions, or, you know, even something where, you know, they're coming back, and each time they come back, you know, it's a little closer to that idea of like happily ever after, but then there's still clearly like work that needs to be done, aspects that are triggered within each of you, or things that kind of just take each of you, or have taken this person off course in the past, and sort of the last time that they came around, the last time you went through this cycle with them, this may have been something where, you know, you just really tried to sort of shut the door to this permanently. And so, you know, this may have been something where it was kind of like that final goodbye that was said. So again, this energy of very surprising that they're sort of turning up again, like almost like, what are you doing here? What are you doing back here kind of energy? I thought things were over between us. But something has really kind of grown, has kind of come to a heightened awareness within them that it doesn't feel accidental or through any kind of act of, you know, synchronicity or serendipity that your two are just running into one another, but this is very much that they're working out a plan of action. They may have really taken that last conversation to heart and have, you know, in the aftermath of that, in a period of separation where you're trying to pick up the pieces, you're working on yourself, they have also been working on themselves. So it's more of, rather than just kind of like all this cups energy and this swords energy kind of, you know, theoretical fantasy, very feeling based, it almost looks like somebody who's coming back this time, you know, with these two pentacles cards here, very solid energy, something very stable. They have, it's a different vibration than what they've shown up to you in before, and it's almost something where now they have something to offer. Now there can be kind of this opportunity for some follow through rather than just kind of empty promises that sort of fall apart. So I'm going to look now into some oracle cards for what do they want to say to you, and then I'll dig a little bit deeper with some message cards. So we have success, luminous, tears, and pursuit. So this energy here of luminous in pursuit, this is really giving me the impression that your light has drawn them back in some manner. They may have heard through the grapevine about some kind of success that you have reached, something you have been working towards, some goal you've been trying to cultivate. Maybe this is something, a long-term goal of yours, something that when you were dealing with each other, maybe when you were younger, or, kind of in the past, or just through these kind of successive stages of sort of cycling back around into one another's reality. You have taken some steps and have accomplished something in some manner that maybe they heard about through the grapevine. They got wind of this. They've encountered you. They've seen this. If you have a social media presence, for example, you do something in a very public capacity, maybe in terms of work, career, some kind of spiritual mission, spiritual practice, things of that nature. It almost feels that maybe even like an algorithm has recommended you to this individual. They have, heard from people that you know in common about these kind of achievements that you have, these goals that you have been working toward. It feels like the energy of they've been watching you from afar for quite some time, and that they have reached this place of almost kind of being in awe, but again, very much drawn in. The idea with tears is really tying into this energy of kind of knowing what they have now that it's gone. They can also really want to reveal to you that the time apart has been difficult. The idea with the success and kind of this staircase right here, it's tying into this notion of sort of the vibration that they were working at before, that they have picked up some new tools. Maybe this is somebody who has initiated some kind of like self-help process. They have reached out and gotten help maybe for some other issues or factors that were obstacles to the connection in the past. A situation, maybe like a third-party situation that may have kept them restrained or unable to take action to explore these feelings in the past. It almost feels that they have transcended beyond that. They may have, for some of you, some kind of bad news to deliver, but that could be maybe about somebody in common, something where they've been on some tough times, they've been on hard times in their life, they've had a very difficult chapter, a difficult phase, something that, really kind of toppled them to the ground in some manner that they have been really working to transcend. And this can be something where, they're sort of reaching out to you, kind of wanting your wisdom, wanting your input, something that may have been a very humbling experience for them that has put into perspective almost what matters, what they have been valuing, what they have been really feeding their energy and time into up to this point in time. And, kind of the energy almost of a lot of sand castles, some tower moments that they may have had in their life, things really having crumbled down. And it is through this period of almost like personal darkness or difficulty, this dark night of the soul energy with tears here, that they have found this kind of like internal light, this light of truth. It feels to have applied to a lot of different aspects of their life. Again, they're coming from kind of a sort of a whimsical energy, maybe a little bit of like an emotionally immature energy, and there's been some kind of growth, some kind of progress, but it feels to me maybe even things that were very difficult. They have learned some crucial lessons. It's not been an easy road. It's not been an easy uphill climb to wherever they are at in their life. They've really had to fight. They've had to push through. They've had to struggle. This idea here of almost this mirrored energy in this pursuit card is really kind of bringing to mind the idea of them wanting to let you know that, maybe even difficulties that you've been facing, a sense of heartbreak, perhaps even, an unactualized potential between the two of you, that they have felt this longing, very mutual. They wanted to reach out sooner. They wanted to explore the connection earlier. They wanted to bring forth to you a better, and more stable version of themselves, but they were still kind of a work in progress. They, this kind of cyclical energy right here. There were some karmic cycles or tendencies or habits or belief systems or whatever was interfering in the past that they needed to work through. But it feels like as they have been in this process of, kind of maybe searching the world to find themselves, kind of like existential crisis kind of energy here, or going around through these phases of experience, things things that didn't work out, things that did work in their favor, just whatever that is, that looks like. It feels that in some way they're kind of like coming full circle. They've come to some kind of an understanding. Some things have wrapped up in their life, and there's also this desire to tell you that in these kind of cycles, while their attention was directed elsewhere in the material world, you remained very much an energetic presence to them. You have remained within their heart. There's always been this curiosity and this sense of what if. And that it has taken a period of loss and having to kind of like rebuild themselves almost from the ground up type energy in order to be able to really kind of learn and appreciate and value and move toward and chase things that are healthier for them, that are more in their highest good. It's almost this energy of them wanting to say that they didn't even really know themselves before, but they've come to this place of like personal illumination. They've gone through this transformational phase in their life. So this may be somebody who has had a spiritual awakening. They have taken their ascension journey very seriously. They have reached some kind of milestone. If they were operating with kind of this moon in the background here, in this very sort of shadowy energy, keeping a lot hidden, kind of operating in denial, wearing a mask, wearing an illusion. This is almost, the authentic version of this person that they have been working to cultivate and bring out into the light. And it is from this place of personal growth and development, maybe which they want to share with you. Things that you said, ultimatums that you gave, they took that to heart. They've looked to you as an example. Your light has really called them in, literally or figuratively. And it's almost this idea of them really recognizing that the two of you, that there was almost a lot of potential here that should have been acted upon. It should have been actualized. It's been this lingering question, and they may not have been equipped necessarily to pursue that fully, to understand that fully, to grasp that, or to receive and reciprocate to this connection fully in the past, but they're in a place of readiness almost to try and make this work, to try and rebuild this, to at least explore and kind of move outside of the box of the dynamic of how the two of you have defined the situation up to this point in time, in the pursuit of kind of what else you might grow into in the future. What might be possible, if the difficulties or disappointments you have faced in any way in the past, if this is something that, can be mended, if the connection can be resuscitated, or for some of you where this is kind of like false start energy because there were other circumstances in the way, again, like right person, wrong time in the past. It's almost this individual wanting to come back around and say, that they have seen the light, they have made a lot of changes, and it feels these changes are independent of you. For some of you, this may be something sparked by or kind of encouraged by creating a sense of readiness and availability within their lives to sort of receive and give to the connection fully. But for others of you, it feels to be something where, through their own kind of personal transformation, this self-awareness, standing more in their own authenticity, moving away from kind of limited aspects of self, moving out of karmic patterns, really having a glow up in some respect in their own life. It has equipped them to be able to perceive you more clearly. And it has really kind of sparked this curiosity within them, almost like, I wonder whatever happened to so-and-so. I wonder if the time might be right now. A path or almost something you were reaching toward that they may not have fully understood in the past. It feels that they have a widened perspective in some manner. Their eyes have been opened to something. They have been illuminated, and they now see clearly that this connection, what you shared in the past, what was maybe only just kind of a whimsical suggestion that never was really grounded in material reality. There's this desire to explore that with renewed vigor and to see if maybe this time around, maybe at this point in both your lives, the recipe can be right to, explore something greater that you might grow into with one another together. So I'm going to get some messages from their higher self, and then I'll close it out with some initials. So let's see, what does this person want you to know? What do they want to say? Okay, and they say, you deserve better than me. So this may have been kind of the case in the past. This person recognizing, owning up to, wanting to have that discussion that they were a work in progress, that they were, not able to fully kind of receive and appreciate the love and the vibration that you had to offer. And it almost feels to be something that this may, for a lot of you, have been a motivator during this period of silence or separation, the distance between the two of you. They've been working on themselves, stepping into that better version of self, and very much deliberately moving towards you with the intention of exploring, can it work between us this time around? Am I at a place of readiness and presentability to be able to offer something reciprocal to this connection moving forward? They also say finances are a problem. So again, there may have been some tower moments, some things that needed to be restructured. If there was a karmic partnership that they were in, maybe this is someone that, went and married somebody else. They may have recently gone through a divorce. Something has been restructured. Something has kind of like a lack mentality as well with this finances are a problem. This is something that they have been working towards repairing, something that they have been working on, stepping into purpose, reconfiguring their entire lifestyle, their entire world, their worldview, how they're moving through the world, what they're participating with, who they have in their circle, and tough times that they may have really come through, and the sense of a humbling experience that has provided them the ability to see very clearly what matters, what's important, what's worth investing in. And the attention is then being drawn back to either what the two of you shared together in the past, that they hadn't valued, they hadn't really worked to protect that, or to be very consistent with that. This can also tie into the sense of, from this place of clarity, they are now recognizing you as the type of person that they would want to partner with, that they could see themselves building a very successful life with, kind of coming out of this energy maybe of sort of low vibrational toxic or very kind of like mundane 3D based connections, and sort of yearning for more substance, more value, more meaning, which they perceive is possible with you, or which the two of you had shared in the past, but they hadn't necessarily been at the place of sort of consciousness to be able to really appreciate and value and cherish as much as they now from this place see that it would have been a good idea to do. They also say, I feel terrible for hurting you. So a lot of disappointment. There could have been a lot of innuendos, suggestions, a feeling of the two of you really, building momentum in a particular direction. And then they could have, kind of pulled the plug on the situation very abruptly, left a lot of questions, left you to really pick up the broken pieces. And even if this is something where, there wasn't necessarily a breakup, where you haven't even, really gotten off the ground with one another, or the energy of, being too young to really appreciate one another fully, or to be able to invest in something long term with one another in the past. This individual has held a lot of regret about that. So there is a desire to make amends. Tables may have been turned on them. They have kind of now felt what they have put you through. They are, now seeing that perhaps a decision to, explore elsewhere to see if the grass was greener on the other side, that it has proven not to be. And so it's coming back, wanting to come back in a very humble energy to provide apology, to see if the two of you can sort of work through those difficulties and build in a new direction, or explore some untapped potential between the two of you. That if they were sort of held back or limited in their ability to invest in or explore their feelings in the past, this is almost a lot of regret for not having taken a chance, and it is motivating this deliberate action towards you. Again, this is not somebody who's just, you're going to run into them accidentally. There's a lot of planning involved in this. It's a very conscious step to reach out, to resurface in your reality, and it is motivated by this kind of interest to sort of rebalance the scales between the two of you, to bring more joy and just a sense of knowing where there may have been a lot of questions or kind of disappointments before. They also say, I miss hearing your voice. So definitely somebody, that you may have been friends with, coworkers, something where you're having these interactions with one another. This idea of your voice can also talk about your perspective, your inputs. And maybe this was somebody you were dealing with online. They may even reach out to you online, start those, lines of communication and trying to kind of repair the damage that was done in this connection in the past, virtually first and foremost, kind of, keeping some boundaries up, creating sort of a safety net, a safety zone for each of you to sort of dip your toe into the situation very gradually, reacclimate to one another, a lot that may need to be discussed. This is the energy of heart-to-heart conversations, missing your wisdom, words that you have said in the past have really stuck with this individual. A lot of it feels to be companion energy. It has been motivation through a period of upheaval and change. Words that may have fallen on deaf ears in the past, advice that you had given them, even just the generosity of spirit with which you have interacted with them in the past, the things you've talked about, the way your mind works, where your values are, where your intentions are directed, the goals you have for the future. If these were all things that this individual wasn't able to appreciate in the past, or felt that they still needed to kind of like learn or grow or explore more before they were ready to kind of settle into that energy, plan for that forever future, there's a sense of really missing kind of discussing these things with you, missing hearing your perspective on things, wanting to kind of talk through the difficulties, wanting to have the lines of communication be directed towards something constructive rather than just kind of like sitting and thinking very individually and internally in this energy of sort of what if and regret. They also say, I don't know why this happened. So a lot of guilt and shame that they are holding within themselves at not having taken a leap of faith towards you sooner, it feels like. Definitely if this is somebody who's watching you from afar, they've been watching for quite some time. They didn't just come upon your information. They haven't just recently heard about you through the grapevine. They've been almost keeping tabs on you for some time. And almost like the longer that goes by, it is putting a lot of pressure on them to do something. It's also really providing them, it's a tool, it's providing them with some clarity as far as, what they have now that it's gone. A sense of almost with this energy of like, I don't know what I was thinking. If they had, chosen somebody else, if they had been valuing something else in the connection before, the priorities were more on just kind of the mundane, or if they were involved in kind of like toxicity, sort of low vibrational relationships or habits in some manner, something that they chose, over kind of love, almost the idea of like if it was a choice between sort of love and money, if there was, a career that was very demanding and they couldn't invest fully in the connection and they chose to sort of, pursue that path to success. They may have reached that. They may have reached those milestones or those accomplishments, and then they're looking around and feeling very lonely because that intangible wealth of, true love and companionship and, intimacy on an emotional level is kind of lacking in their life at this point in time. And it's a sense of really feeling that they invested in the wrong thing. They made a choice in the wrong thing. And so it's this desire to come back around and see, can we repair the situation between us? And they also say, I am not over you. So confirmation of that energy of you have accompanied them on this journey of their life, this cycle of their life, however long it has been since you were last dealing with one another. This is not an out of sight, out of mind situation, especially if this was kind of like a failure to launch sort of situation, a lot of untapped potential here. They have always questioned, what if they had chosen you over somebody else? What if they had, kind of broken free from whatever the sort of limited, thought patterns were. Maybe it was even kind of a broken relationship that they were in, that they just sort of stayed together with for, appearances or any kind of number of excuses. Something that was already on its way out the door, past the expiration date, and it was almost like two people holding on longer than they should have. It feels that a situation like that has definitely fallen apart. It is in that person's past, and now there's this energy of, you know, what was I thinking? I should have taken steps sooner to kind of free myself, make myself available to explore this connection sooner and more readily. Sort of, what was I thinking? I'm you know, I'm not over you. I've got this energy of regret at kind of the gift of this connection, the gift of our time with one another, and ways in which they had not necessarily, you know, tried to accommodate that, in which they, you know, just kind of looked at it as a very black and white situation and had chosen a different path, had kind of moved off in another direction. But there's always been this kind of like draw and this longing and this curiosity, which is definitely a big motivator, which is bringing them back around to try and explore that, knock on that door and see, can we rebuild? You know, is now the right time to really get this thing off the ground finally, or even for the first time? So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Okay, so we've got R, C, A, G, M, P, D, E, K, Z, L, O, and Q. So hold those up if you want to take a look at them, screenshot them for a minute. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop. There's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. The format over there consists of pick-a cards and general energy readings related to subjects such as spirituality, ascension, wellness, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out. I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the black Moonstone. So I'm going to start off with tarot and look into who's headed your way, and then I'll get into some oracle cards and some message cards to see what do they want to say. So we have the Queen of Pentacles, which is Earth energy, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. Eight of Pentacles, which is more Earth energy. The World, which is fixed energy, Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio. Page of Pentacles, so more Earth energy. Seven of Pentacles, more Earth energy. Two of Cups, which is water energy, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. Six of Cups, so more water energy. And I'm going to get one more of these. we also have the Fool, which is Aries. So definitely the energy of a past person with the World, somebody you have closed out a cycle with, you have come to some kind of place of completion, and they are interested in trying to restart things with the Six of Cups and the Fool. This is the energy of reconciliation, of a new beginning, somebody who may have been even afraid in the past to take that leap of faith towards you. Definite soulmate energy here with the Two of Cups. Two of Cups and Six of Cups also really ties in for me with past life soulmate energy. So a lot of intensity that could have occurred in this connection in the past, kind of like an opposites attract sort of energy between the two of you. Although with the Six of Cups, this may be somebody that you knew from childhood, you knew from when you were younger. Definitely something that's coming through here as well, of maybe like your families disapproved of the connection, kept the connection apart, kept the two of you apart, kind of like the energy of star-crossed lovers in some way. It could have been that when you were last sort of dealing with one another, this person is in kind of like this Page of Pentacles sort of energy. They were just kind of establishing themselves, just getting started. They didn't have a lot of stability for themselves, other things, other goals that they were wanting to work on, kind of operating from a lack mentality, or just almost like breadcrumbing in the situation, very non-committal in the past, kind of a fear of commitment in a sense. And interestingly, Queen of Pentacles and Eight of Pentacles came up in group one. So if you felt drawn to watch that group, you may want to do so after this reading. There could be additional messages there for you. But this definitely could be something where, career and finance was that was what was chosen over the connection in the past, or some kind of like fixation upon material world circumstances where, maybe this person in the past was saying that they couldn't give you what you needed. They couldn't be the person that you wanted them to be. They may have even accused you of having very high standards, unreasonable expectations, things that they were unable to live up to, a sense of needing to really find themselves, work on other things, not being ready for a connection in general, or almost the energy of kind of like a level up, that this situation, maybe the intensity of the bond between the two of you, all that kind of like past life energy really could have kickstarted some kind of awakening for this individual, for you as well, and it kind of drove you both in separate directions into your separate corners. A sense with the Seven of Pentacles of really, a missed opportunity, having missed the boat in some way, a sense of timing being off, a sense of somebody who may be very kind of like logically oriented, and there could have been a lot of sort of like missed opportunities, like plans to get together, these very kind of grand ideas of what the connection may develop into, kind of the sense of making promises but not following through on that, maybe other things kind of interfering, people thwarting the connection, people working directly in opposition to the connection, or almost like a fear of what would other people think, how would this situation fit into my material reality, especially if the two of you were kind of from two different worlds, for example. Kind of like the idea of the haves and the have-nots, that there may have been some kind of like economic, financial background, some kind of social status that was questioned or was questionable between the two of you, a sense of maybe one of you being very kind of like practical and logical and traditional, the other person being maybe more, free-spirited and artistic and, maybe very spiritually based, and kind of a doubting or a questioning as far as how these two worlds could really sort of fit together. Maybe even with the idea of the world distance separating the two of you. This could be something that for work, for travel, maybe even something with like a military deployment that has taken this individual elsewhere, other sort of pressures or a sense of duty and obligation that they chose to invest in or were almost compelled to invest in, especially if this is something where it was like a military connection and it was somebody being deployed overseas, for example. They may not have really had a choice in the matter. That could have been very heart-wrenching to have to not invest in the connection, to have this spark and this chemistry with an individual, but then through that kind of sense of like literal obligation, through their work, through that duty, through that contractual obligation, being pulled in another direction. And so with that is almost this sense of like longing across the distance, longing across time and space. Conversely from this may also be somebody you're dealing with currently, where again, that kind of element of the military connection may apply. This could be somebody deployed overseas, somebody you have met online, somebody that is at a distance from you, where plans may have been made to meet up with one another, to kind of cement this situation down into the material reality, and it's almost like interferences got in the way. Maybe things literally in the material world up to this point in time, or a lot of even like fears and insecurities within this person, like Six of Cups, kind of this immature energy, Page of Pentacles, kind of a fear of commitment. Almost like the plans being made and them backing out or creating excuses, at the last minute, that's created a lot of frustrations in this situation. So with that idea of the Fool, this can again be, sort of like it hasn't really gotten off the ground, and yet there's, kind of this has been the pattern between the two of you with the World and the Fool of kind of like, let's try again, let's start again. There's a tenacity to this where, rather than necessarily completely giving up all hope, there may be periods of time where, there's distance, where you're not speaking with one another. Plans are put in place and they're kind of falling apart. There are hurt feelings, but then you keep sort of coming back together to that starting line, trying again, trying from a different angle, trying to kind of configure things or to try and like make those sort of compromises with one another to really accommodate schedules, maybe things of like a financial nature where, there's kind of like a lack of present ability to really contribute to the connection, or in the past that had been the case, especially if like travel would have been involved, somebody who just couldn't afford to travel, promises were made and then sort of at the last minute budgeting constraints came up, or maybe this was something where, these grand plans were put in place, but it was something that in actuality they couldn't really afford that. They couldn't really afford to do that, to take time off or to afford those travel expenses. And so it's created kind of these roadblocks, all this Pentacles energy, things in the material world in some sense. This can definitely be somebody that, in the past you had discussed long-term plans of forever with. Either there was a romantic connection that had been, solidified, had maybe gotten off the ground to a certain extent, but it almost feels to be something that it could have been like a short-lived romance between the two of you, or again, a lot of this sense of plans being put in place, but then sort of like falling through. The Seven of Pentacles, the time just like not being right, things just not working out, other kind of complications coming into place. Or this is the idea of, sort of all these signs and indicators that things could work out really well between the two of you, but then sort of like fears of commitment, fears of, what would other people say? How could this situation really be accommodated in both your lives? Fears really holding back, kind of taking those leaps of faith forward. So it kind of just stayed in this very, premature, immature, sort of like early stage sort of energy right here, where there's been these distinct obstacles and blockages in the material world, or just kind of like a hesitation or a failure on this individual's part in the past to really take the initiative to sort of push past barriers to really kind of co-create with you. It's sort of been stuck in the energy of the Fool and kind of this 0 point here, a lot of potential, nothing really actualized. They haven't sort of taken those steps to kind of lean over into Magician energy, to manifest the connection, to try and make it work, to come up with solutions. It's almost just being like, really held back into this realm of sort of like what if. But with that is this deep kind of chemistry here. This deep sense of soul knowing, even if there's been periods of time where you're not talking to one another, or across the distance, or maybe this is somebody you haven't even met yet in the physical, and there's this deep kind of like draw towards one another, but then also kind of like these other sort of logistics that have been a factor up to this point in time, to where maybe even that kind of conversation of, openly talking about feelings, expressing feelings, discussing a future, these things have not necessarily been brought out into the light of day. This has all just been something that has been kind of suggested at, kind of with that breadcrumby energy right here of the Page of Pentacles, sort of like little slips of the tongue, or little suggestions, things where opportunity to have those conversations, to put those plans in place, to openly discuss those feelings, have been presented on at least one occasion. It feels like multiple occasions. and one or both of you kind of not seizing that opportunity, kind of letting that opportunity pass each of you by, and kind of, left in this energy of sort of like rumination, or ruminating, and kind of like thinking about that, and sort of trying to sort of come back around and replan, build up to that delivery point, but then a lot of sort of fall through at this point in time, or just not being able to come to an energy of compromise up to this point in time, as far as like, how are we going to make this work despite the obvious and tangible obstacles or differences in this situation, like kind of a lack of sort of pushing things to the next level, seeing the fear and just kind of like stopping at the gate, seems to be the energy of sort of like the who of this situation, that this has been the dynamic with this person, large in part. So I'm going to take a look at some oracle cards to see what they want to say to you, and then I'll get some message cards from their higher self as well. Okay, so we have rejoice, centered, power, and mask. So this idea of mask can definitely tie into somebody who has been hiding their feelings for you, maybe just giving a little bit a mask or some kind of an illusion energy, kind of people-pleasing or codependency that they may be wanting to discuss with you, kind of taking off that mask and showing their authentic self, kind of letting you know, having that conversation. I don't care what people think anymore. These kind of obstacles between the two of us up to this point in time, these have just been illusions. This can definitely, really speak to vulnerability. The idea of rejoice can also really talk about, again, these very beautiful feelings that they have for you that they may not have acted upon previously. They may not have discussed these things. A sense of really letting you know that you bring a lot of joy to their life. You bring a lot of light to their life. They value you. They value the connection. You are their happy place. You are their safe place. You feel like home to them. That it's kind of the energy of sort of like, be you and the world will adjust. Feels like what this person wants to have the conversation with you about, to let you know in some way that you are their world, and they want to do what is necessary and what is possible to move toward a higher vibration in this connection with the two of you. The idea of centered can talk about, that they really have evaluated the pros and cons of sort of what was holding them back up to this point in time versus, this draw towards you, that they've come full circle with something in a way. They're wanting to close out, this period of almost the unactualized potential between the two of you in order to push forward, in order to press forward into a new phase of what you both might become together. There's this energy here of the meeting of the minds, wanting to have that discussion, talk about those fears, talk about those, uncomfortable truths or ways in which with this power they have really given too much power and authority over to what other people think. They've given away the power of love and the interest of, investing in kind of things of a material nature, in appearances, in the sense of that they needed to have a certain amount of something before they would be worthy to, invest in a connection with you. Almost the energy of like putting you on a pedestal to some degree. And so for a lot of you, there may be, on varying levels of directness talking about this, where they value you very much. They value the connection. They want to press forward to make this work. They feel very empowered with you and through the idea of taking things to the next level, building, growing, or even coming back together with one another once again to sort of like repair the situation and really take things to the next level. This can also talk about, something that has changed. If it was kind of like a matter of finances or being from sort of like two different worlds in some way, where sort of that fear and kind of the perception of the outer, picture at the expense of kind of like the inner core, the inner truth of their feelings. This is something that they've come to a deeper understanding about, that some kind of shadow aspect of themselves, some kind of feeling almost of insecurity or insufficiency within them, which had caused them to kind of just allow the gift of this potential between the two of you to pass them by. It definitely feels to be, wanting to come up with strategies, also with kind of these phases of the moon right here, really wanting to kind of like work through this step by step, very slowly take that leap of faith forward into a new direction, and understanding that it may be kind of a gradual process to sort of build beyond these fears. If these are, kind of like direct obstacles in the outside world, maybe having to do with finance, there's a sense of kind of like a combining of forces, meeting in the middle in some way, certain sacrifices that may need to be made, certain, preparations and plans that may need to really be put in place, rather than kind of like an all or nothing in the energy of extremes. There is this sense here of really wanting to, come to a place of reciprocity with one another, where you're both giving equally to try and make room for this love in the material world. There's a sense of, calm, a sense of certainty. This can even tie into the idea of like a past life soulmate, where they have this like recognition, maybe even beyond words. For some of you, they are now familiar with what past life soulmates are. It's could be a twin flame connection, just whatever label resonates. And it may be very surprising that this individual is wanting to take that mask off and really let you know that they see who you are to them now. They have on some level begun to understand kind of the nature of the connection, the triggering, the obstacles, and kind of this growth potential that it's really asking them to step into the best version of self, to be very courageous and to fight for what matters. Not fight for what matters in terms of like, material stability or success or kind of the acquisition of power, but it's personal power. It's the power of love. It's a force which has so much more creative potential than whatever it is they have been investing in or had kind of measured the merit of their own success up to this point in time in a material world. There's a sense of wanting to empower this connection, feeling very nourished and nurtured by you in the connection, even in any kind of like a period of closure, separation, or distance. This can definitely be along the lines of what they're wanting to say to you, what they're wanting to discuss. Is that this feels, next level. This feels very otherworldly to them. This feels like something that they want to, do what it takes to continue to have in their life, and not just have in their life at kind of like the status quo level, but to really sort of move beyond that current definition or dynamic between the two of you and work toward kind of like the next manifestation of what the two of you can become together. So I'm going to get some messages from their higher self now and see what else does this person want to say. Okay, so they say, I daydream about a life with you. So this is definitely plans for the future. You are heavily on their mind. This is the energy of wanting to proactively work to overcome obstacles, whether these are internal or external, rather than continuing to be thwarted by these things. It definitely feels like this individual is wanting to come towards you and to bring this out into the open, so you each can come up with creative solutions, all that Pentacles energy, very practical solutions to bring the possibility of this situation situation, to bring this desire that they have for renewal or reconciliation, or to take things to the next level out into the material world. Not just for something that, gets off the ground and then stalls out again, or kind of, moves forward to some degree and then kind of putters out and just sort of dissipates back into this realm of distance and kind of like loss, and a sense of the timing being off between the two of you. This is really the energy of wanting to create a solid and stable future together, discuss those plans for the future, and take steps to actively work toward that in a material world. They also say, I feel so happy with you. So that is that energy of rejoice that came out. You bring a lot of joy to their life. You represent a light in their life in some manner. You're very inspirational. When they think about the idea of the future and happiness and kind of happily ever after, your name is written all over that storybook, the cover of that story, every page, every chapter, every paragraph. And if this is someone who had been in denial about that before, had been questioning things, or had been looking too much at obstacles and differences and kind of everything that it would take financially, practically, in a mundane sense, in a material sense, maybe even emotionally, difficult conversations that they're needing to take place, aspects of themselves that would be needing to be brought to the forefront of their reality, so that people in their world, in their material reality, their community, their family, in the work environment, would see a different face of this person that they normally had hidden. And it's something that, through you being you really encourage them to step into their own authenticity. And what may have been a very frightening prospect before had caused them to kind of like keep themselves hidden away, just a particular version, like a watered down version of themselves that they were presenting to the world and to others. This feels to be something where you really inspire them to step more into that authenticity, to do what needs to be done in order to be able to stand very proudly beside you and say, we are each other's person. They also say, I feel so drawn to you. So they are, coming up with some kind of a plan. Obviously, this is a who's headed your way and what do they want to say reading. So, this is something where they are actively planning on coming back into you. This is someone who may have been thinking about this for a while, crunching numbers, kind of doing a lot of strategizing and planning on their own. And they feel to be very much on the brink of, wanting to kind of come back together in the energy of repairing the situation, building, trying to work beyond the obstacles that the two of you face individually or together, in order to be able to kind of rewrite the script, kind of move toward a different future with one another than where you have been kind of maybe stagnated at, stalled out at, or what seemed possible up to this point or previously in this situation. They also say, I'm planning on reaching out to you, which is a really excellent confirmation, since again, this is a who's headed your way and what do they want to say reading. So this is someone who's very determined. They're determined to make it work. They're determined to muster all their courage, muster all their charm, gather together their finances. This may have even been somebody who's been saving to create some kind of change in their life. Maybe if distance was a factor, an issue, they're wanting to come forth, to let you know that they have found a way to kind of meet in the middle, maybe literally traveling towards one another, or things that they had, really kind of valued or had stood in the way as far as like commitments, maybe things as, as far as like a job, overworking, or a particular schedule or lifestyle or a place they were very attached to. There's an energy of liberation with this. They're willing to make certain sacrifices, let certain things go, restructure or reimagine their life in some way in order to, make room for you in their life and in their reality. They also say, I'm afraid of commitment. So that was coming through with this idea of the breadcrumbing. This can definitely be sort of the introduction or the early phase of what they're saying to you, that, maybe they had been hurt in love before. They're scared of opening up their heart. They're afraid of these feelings. They're afraid of the magnitude and the draw and the intensity. And yet, as much as they have tried to look away, they've come up with excuses. They've allowed other obstacles to really stand in the way. It feels like they are trying to take bold steps to overcome this fear of commitment. Even if it's just a baby step towards you, it's one step closer from sort of what this person's pattern is, or what their conduct has been up to this point in this connection. And they also say secrets and deception. So you may not know that they have been planning, that they have been saving. They're planning on surprising you. Maybe for some of you, even this, who's headed your way, they could, pop up in your town, in your state, in your country, in your city, wanting to surprise you with a getaway. This can also talk about, secrets and deception as far as feelings that they have for you that they have not spoken about, they have not acted upon. They have allowed the perception of others, the opinions of others, other things, other obstacles in the material world to thwart this, to cause them to just sort of hold back, keep this in the energy of what if, allowing other sort of difficulties to interfere with the actualization of potential. And this is the idea of taking off that mask, coming forth with some kind of truth, professing their love, professing how much they miss you, how much they want this connection, and how much they are willing to work to try and create some compromise so that there is forward movement in the material world between the two of you. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Okay, so we've got W, D, V, L, Q, B, A, Z, F, and H. So hold those up for a minute if you want to take a look at those or screenshot them. So those are your messages. I hope they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. The format over there consists of pick-a-cards and general energy readings related to subjects such as spirituality, ascension, wellness, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out. I thank you for your support there as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose the Aventurine. So I'm going to start with some tarot to see who's headed your way, and then I'll get into some oracle cards and message cards to see what do they want to say. Okay, so we have the Ten of Pentacles, which is Earth energy, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. King of Wands, which is fire energy, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Wheel of Fortune, which is mutable energy, Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius. Ten of Swords, which is air energy, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. Five of Pentacles, so more earth energy. Page of Cups, which is water energy, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. Seven of Pentacles, so more earth energy. And Ten of Cups, so more water energy. So this is very specific. Maybe this is just a message for one person, but that Ten of Pentacles, I'm hearing you're the cat's meow. So maybe that's a clue for somebody as far as who this is, somebody that may have said that to you, maybe somebody who likes cats, somebody who's very independent, somebody who had wanted their freedom, wanted their independence from this situation. And that could have been what sort of caused a connection to stall out between the two of you. This Ten of Pentacles brings to mind the idea of somebody maybe you were living with, you were in a long-term connection with, plans were being made to move toward that. This may have even been somebody you were engaged to. Kind of all signs were pointing to this becoming a forever connection. And, you know, with that Five of Pentacles then, where they could have just gotten cold feet, had abruptly left, had said that they needed their independence, they weren't ready, it was too much pressure, you know, the two of you weren't seeing eye to eye, you know, their goals had changed, their desires for the future had changed, maybe even kind of telling you in the past that you weren't necessarily who they were looking for in a partner, which could have been a very devastating event with that Ten of Swords, words that they have said that have been lingering within you, a very difficult breakup, a very painful breakup, something that may have been very embarrassing between the two of you. A sense of, with the Ten of Cups, like this happily ever after that was thwarted in some way, or a sense of like, this was supposed to be my forever person. And some of you may still be kind of clinging to that reality of like, this is the person for me. I don't know how this is going to happen. I don't know how it's going to manifest in the material world, but I know that this is the one for me. Kind of the sense of, if it's not them, it's nobody sort of an energy here. A sense of, with Seven of Pentacles, that you may have been waiting for this person to return for quite some time. They have been maybe taking a long time to kind of like think things through, to create some kind of plans, especially if they needed to, you know, have their independence, needed to find themselves. This may have been something where you've been waiting for a very long time. Hope is wearing thin. Kind of the signs are kind of dwindling. There's not much to go on, and yet there's still this sense of certainty within you that it's meant to be the two of you. And with this Page of Cups, this can definitely talk about somebody who may have been kind of emotionally immature, very hesitant to give that cup of love. This may have been a very kind of like one-sided connection. Maybe you were the one who was doing all the giving, and they were very hesitant to receive the love you had to give. They may have rejected that in some manner. Or, you know, they're almost like playing games with your heart may have been sort of an issue here with this situation. You might have been the one who, you know, called it quits on this circumstance, telling this individual you couldn't deal with this anymore. This kind of like energy of sort of inconsistency with Ten of Pentacles and Five of Pentacles. Like at certain points in time, they were really invested, they were giving, everything was going according to plan, everything was going in a way that was very mutually beneficial and satisfying to the two of you, and then they almost would like slip back into old patterns in some manner, or disappoint or not follow through. It's kind of like promises made that were not necessarily kept in some manner. You know, the idea of like King of Wands can also talk about somebody who may have been very kind of controlling or demanding, very sort of unwilling to yield in some particular way. This could also have to do with kind of a family dynamic as well, where family was very influential upon this individual. Especially for some of you, at least one of you, it feels like this is somebody that you were planning a wedding with. You were planning on, you know, taking things to the next level, and in some manner there may have been like intrusive family members that caused the two of you to just want to like call the connection off. There may have been discussion of kind of like eloping somewhere, running off together. Plans were sort of put in place to do that, and then at the last minute this person may have said, you know, I can't disappoint my family in that sense. You know, it's too difficult. We're from two different worlds in some manner. I need more time to kind of like think this through. It's too much pressure in some way. It doesn't feel that will apply to everyone's situation, but again, for somebody that definitely feels to be the case here. This may be somebody who gets a lot of attention. They may be very attractive. Jealousy could have been an issue in some way. Feeling that maybe this was even kind of like insecurity on your part because of all the attention that they were getting. This may be somebody who, travels a lot with the Wheel of Fortune. They're kind of like a very busy person. They're coming into contact with a lot of people. You may be almost like night and day with the two of you, one being very extroverted, the other being very introverted. One person being very popular, maybe through work or just kind of something with their personality, a very charismatic individual, very attractive individual, somebody who really magnetizes in and draws a lot of abundance and attention and compliments toward them. And this really could have highlighted some element of lack within you that could have been almost what this person then perceived as like pressure or an imbalance that may have caused them to not necessarily view you as an equal in some manner, or kind of something that had been triggered in this circumstance, or they may have accused you of being jealous, being possessive, putting a lot of pressure on them, things that it almost feels that for some of you, this person doesn't really recognize this quality of charisma about themselves. But with this Ten of Swords, this can tie into somebody who kind of has used that manipulatively in the past to their advantage to gain opportunities, to kind of create change and movement for themselves in a way that's almost shadowy, not sort of utilizing these gifts that they have within themselves, for kind of like the highest good of everyone, but somebody who may be very kind of like has a tendency to be self-serving in that capacity, maybe a little bit of like narcissistic tendencies within this person, that it's kind of just control issues may have been a factor to where, again, you may have been the one that felt, your needs were not really being met in this situation in the past. So you kind of like with the Ten of Cups, an act of self-love, it took a lot of strength. It may have taken a lot of time to get to the point of really cutting things off with this individual, some kind of a wake-up call for them that you hoped to, provide in some way. It almost feels with this Ten of Cups that you may have been very kind of kind or generous, almost maybe a little too nice, and how you may have let this person off the hook in the past. But it feels to be something that's one of the things that they loved about you or still love about you. It may be something, though, where it's kind of like taking your kindness for weakness in some manner, where they may just be more of like a dominant or aggressive personality, and you were kind of just along for the ride, it felt like a lot of times. A lot of this could be very unknowing on this person's part, that they're just a fiery personality. They're just a very, charismatic, a very kind of dominant personality. It's very easy to get lost in the shadow of this individual. This person may have some kind of fame or status in some manner. This could be somebody who's wealthy, who has some kind of title or just a lot of maybe even eyes on them, some kind of like public persona, even a public personality. This could even, they could have some degree of like celebrity or fame for them, and that this may have really been something that, because of perhaps these other commitments, something maybe even that picked up as far as this was concerned during your connection. They may have just been starting off at something, and, their star started to rise at some point, and you almost felt left behind in this situation, whether they were deliberately doing that, just kind of breaking promises in some manner, or whether this was almost just triggering some perception of lack within you. It almost feels to be that could have been the wedge in this circumstance. Or if it's somebody that you're still dealing with, that is a component. That's a questioning of kind of like, am I going to be left behind in this circumstance? Is this something, how do I fit into this person's world and into their reality, into this almost larger than life personality that they have, something that, there may be kind of like seeds of doubt that are being sown at this point in time, to where that's an element as well for some of you, that this is somebody who's, they're headed your way in terms of their attention is getting ready to be directed on you in a very precision-like manner, but it feels to be someone you're still dealing with in some capacity, but they may have just been distracted recently to where it feels like they're almost at a distance from you. There's a lot maybe that you're holding within, maybe just, things where they're being very careless with their words, careless with their attention, something where you're feeling almost kind of like alone or sort of like left out in the cold, despite the fact that you're still kind of like coupled up with this person. So something where, it almost in that context then, and I'll get into some oracle cards in a minute to dig deeper into what they want to say to you. But for those of you that resonates, where it's still, a sense of like you're still with this person, you're still dealing with this person, you're still in one another's lives, but you feel almost like you're second fiddle at this point, most likely to something having to do with like career, some kind of a goal, some kind of a passion or dream that they are working toward, or just some aspect of their personality as they are just moving through their life. It's as time's going on, it's becoming more and more difficult, or you just find yourselves at a chapter in your connection where you feel outshined by this person, and it's bringing up a lot of kind of insecurities, maybe something that has been a long time in the making, but they're almost just starting to perceive this for the first time and maybe starting to direct that attention on you. So that can fit that component of that they're headed your way. They've come to a completion with something, or they're just kind of like aware. They're just kind of being clued in or catching up to the fact that you're kind of feeling very disjointed in this circumstance. You're feeling left out. You're feeling neglected. A sense with 10 of Cups of almost trying to be a good sport, trying to congratulate, trying to be very supportive of them, but at this and like holding a lot inside. This may have been something, even if it's someone you're dealing with in the past, where you may have been like, this cheerleader for this person, and kind of like putting your own needs secondary, you having to make a lot of sacrifices of, maybe there's a lot of things that they needed to talk about, and kind of your needs were not touched on. They weren't asking how you were doing. They weren't kind of providing that listening ear and kind of that two-way street as far as the support system was concerned with one another, to where that may have caused you to withdraw, distance yourself, almost a sense of kind of, you may have even been with this person kind of struggling with them, moving through kind of a period of growth, or when they were really stepping into their own, stepping into that fame, stepping into that, kind of where their stars on the rise in some manner, and that was at the expense of kind of your own goals or your own dreams, or that you felt directly pressured, or almost that this could have just been some kind of like instinctual shadow within you, to kind of like placate somebody else, a little bit of people pleasing here, where you just weren't speaking up about these kind of needs or these insecurities at some point, just sort of holding that all inside, to where it created kind of this unconscious and yet tangible, like an energetic sort of wedge or barrier between the two of you. A lot of kind of resentments here, a lot of loneliness here in this situation, and at the same time, somebody else who's kind of just very sort of goal driven in some manner, or is just, maybe they don't look at the world in the same way. They're very much kind of like an outwardly projecting person, and so this element of kind of like feelings, maybe they aren't just very sensitive to other people. It's a very like direct person, like unless you speak what's on your mind, they're not going to be a mind reader, even if there's somebody very intuitive. And so that could have been almost like the disconnect in this situation. Like 10 of Pentacles, they see you as wish fulfillment in the material sense. 10 of Cups, you see them as wish fulfillment in the emotional sense. But there was almost like this disconnect between the two of you. And it was very just a lot of kind of circumstances and things kind of complicating that, to where that initial sort of spark or connection, or sort of the early phases of your interaction with one another, where you were vibing on the same level. It's almost like this distance was created, becoming lonelier and lonelier within the connection, before finally that disconnect, or again, if it's somebody you're still dealing with, that you're at this point of kind of like with each other but very distant from one another. So I'm going to take a look now at what they want to say to you, and I'll also get some higher self messages to get more clarification about that. So we have Earth, Serenity, Window, and Fire. So definitely if this is a no contact situation, you've broken up, things have come full circle, you've kind of like moved away from one another, this idea of fire is wanting to re-spark the connection. They still are very attracted to you. They miss your presence in their life. They miss your light in their life. This is tying in for me with the idea of window, that their perceptions have been cleansed in some way. They have been illuminated to kind of the reality of the importance of the connection, things in which they, had been very kind of like one-sided or lopsided in the past. They've come to this understanding of where their actions, maybe even, from a very kind of like innocent place, from a well-meaning place, or even on the other side of that, from a very controlling place, from a very ego-based place, were not serving the highest good of the connection. And so any kind of like ego-based energy, any sort of sort of stubbornness that they were dealing with, or just putting their own needs very central, they have gotten some kind of clarity about that, as far as the yield, the harvest that actions like that provided for them. This may be something where, kind of they're lacking peace in their life with this energy of serenity, especially if they, are somebody that's getting a lot of attention. They got a lot of eyes on them. This is a very kind of, industrious person. They have some goals that they are working towards, some kind of fame or success that they've achieved. There's a sense of this not bringing them the peace that they had hoped, the sense of fulfillment that they had hoped for. They see you to be a very grounding presence with this earth energy right here. There's a sense of this person wanting to really, come and see if they can do better in the material world going forward, to follow through on promises that are made. Really kind of asking you, what do you need? What do you think? What can I do to be of service to this connection? Which may, with that idea of like window and cleansing and kind of this clarity, this may be something that is a new leaf for this person. This may be a new aspect of them. They may not be used to kind of like approaching situations or people from this manner. This may not have been kind of the status quo in the situation up to this point in time. And they want to provide you with some kind of like window of insight, maybe about their motivations, about things that they were really oblivious to, or things that they had kind of, almost with this idea of the fox here, kind of the illusion, the trickery, things that they were, really kind of being sustained by, or that their ego was being fed by in the past, as far as like that attention, taking you for granted in some manner, whatever it is that they were kind of feeding their attention into, and making you feel really sort of left behind. Even the idea of other things in the material world, expectations of other people that had caused this individual to not continue to invest in and prioritize and focus on the connection. They, are wanting to let you know that they have seen through that illusion. Maybe people that were trying to interfere. And again, this idea of like the windows of perception have been cleansed in some manner, where they are seeing that kind of like operating according to those other people's expectations for them, or a particular way of doing and being in the world. It was not serving their highest good, but was really instead kind of just molding them into a version of themselves that they don't like, that is not the true and authentic expression of who they are, that is kind of like lacking in this energy of peace. This idea of serenity also really speaks to a lot of sleepless nights that they have had in the aftermath of maybe, the connection discontinuing between the two of you, or a sense of wanting to move back into calmer waters rather than kind of being stretched far apart from one another. If you're still, in concert with each other, if you're still in connection with one another, there's this interest here in kind of nourishing things, coming back home, back to the start, back to the way things were between the two of you, to try and build moving forward in a direction that is more equal for the both of you. This may have been something, and I'm hearing wake up call with this energy right here. So this could be something even with the idea of fire, like the spontaneous sort of epiphany, the aha moment. Something that they didn't even understand or know that they were doing in relation to making you feel very neglected. They were kind of prioritizing their own needs, their own goals, just kind of like wanting to have it their way at the expense of sort of other people's comfort or opinions or suggestions. That this is something that again, spontaneous epiphany in some way. Maybe this is someone who's been with the window doing some soul searching, looking deeply within, finally facing their own reflection in some manner, and understanding what they were projecting out, the image that they were really presenting, or how they were showing up in this connection in the past, was not a true reflection of the feelings that they have for you, of the value that they place upon you in the connection. And it's something where they're wanting to kind of like push through that, push through the illusion, push through the mirage. A lot of kind of healing work they have done within themselves, or that critical juncture of being at that healing work by first and foremost kind of admitting to self that there is an issue, that there is a problem. This may be very unusual for this person to admit that they are at fault, to admit that they are in the wrong. Again, it feels like a very strong personality you may have been dealing with, somebody who really outshines a lot of people, or has just kind of work to a place in their life, where they have maybe fought very hard for a degree of success. They have earned this position and kind of just have been continuing on in this sort of like fight mode, and almost unintentionally through the connection, have sort of not taken that opportunity to sort of lean into the stance of receiving. They're still in this very acquisitive kind of mode, and that may have come at the expense of your feelings, or how much they were willing or able to invest in the connection in the past. And so it feels like almost the start of a conversation of sort of like, teach me to love in a different way, teach me to relate to you in a different way, kind of like, I see the error of my ways, but not necessarily this idea of fire. It's kind of just like a spark of inspiration. It's that first step in a new direction, the possibility of that, opening those lines of communication, to really let you know on some level sort of what they've uncovered, what they've discovered, what they've been working on, sort of where they are at in their progress. It may even be just kind of a map check for some of you, where they still really come forth as clearly a work in progress, but at least that willingness to kind of talk about things, maybe just even the words that they are using towards you are very different from how they were in the past, to where it provides you with some kind of like illumination of almost, the illusion that they were living in, where they're wanting to move more into peace. They're wanting to cultivate peace. They're wanting to kind of course correct in whatever way, or re-spark the connection, especially if this is somebody who, again, kind of like chose not to invest, kind of needed to find themselves, felt that there was a lot of pressure in some way, a lot of expectations, putting their own needs first and foremost. This is the energy of kind of like softening that stance, opening those lines of discussion. How can we compromise? Is it too late? What do we need to do to salvage this situation, or to try and rebuild? Can we re-spark? Can we try again? Can we see this thing through? Almost like them seeing your value and worth now, as compared to kind of the illusions they were participating in, or a sense of them feeling in the past that they didn't need you, they were fine without you, and kind of like having come full circle in some way, that their life is more full. There's just this spark of life that they feel when they are with you, and this interest in kind of exploring that further, and both of you sort of teaching one another and learning from one another, and the exploration of this, and how you can kind of grow the connection from the point that it was left at. So I'm going to get some higher self messages, and then I'll get some initials to close it out. So let's see, what else does this person want to say to you? Okay, and they say, I miss being with you. So yeah, a lot of loneliness, maybe that they are feeling as well in the connection. If you're feeling lonely, you two are still, in contact with one another, and they've been focusing on other things. This can be that confirmation of them really letting you know. Maybe that's sort of how they start things, how they start that conversation. I miss you. I miss the way that we were. I miss the closeness that we once shared. I missed an opportunity with you, and I see that now. And they also say, I miss seeing you. So definitely, that can most likely be in the lines of what it is that they are speaking to you. It feels like somebody that if they hadn't really talked about emotional things in the past. It may just be kind of a step in a new direction, but it's a sense of effort on their part, trying to kind of pick up where you left off in some manner, something that they may have missed or overlooked in terms of the value of the connection before, in terms of what you were needing, what was required of them in order to create an equitable partnership. They're seeing things from your stance now. They want to see things through in this situation. They want to come to kind of a meeting of the minds, a place where the two of you can move forward with equal give and take, rather than things just being kind of like one-sided, rather than one person feeding everything emotionally into the situation and the other only taking or maybe kind of not even recognizing the necessity of what they need to give, not being sure how to do that. Something that they missed, something that they overlooked, something that has become clear to them in some manner at this point. And they also say, I can't reach out. So this, again, ties into the idea of someone who may be very busy, somebody who may have a lot on their plate, a lot of other responsibilities and priorities where they had, kind of put you on the back burner in the past. And it's a sense of them really reflecting on that, wanting to address that, owning their part in all of this, in how they did not make the effort when they should have. Even just a small action in your direction could have made all the difference in this situation. And it's really tying in with the idea of, they missed the true value of this connection, and that whatever that they were investing in the past, or choosing to, kind of make that priority and focus, even if this, wasn't anything they were trying to work toward, but it's just somebody with like a very kind of like fiery personality, a very strong personality, a very dominating personality. It was almost like they just were kind of oblivious to your needs. For a lot of you, you may not have even been really speaking up about these things. We're just very much being outshined by this person on some level. And it's something where they couldn't even see your needs in the past. They missed something, but it has become clear to them at this point in time. And so it's almost this energy of like, can we make up for this lost time, for the ways in which I did not serve the connection in the past? Can we try again? Can we move in another direction? Can you give me the opportunity to give more to you in an equitable fashion than I had previously? They also say jealous and possessive. So this can definitely tie into, elements of the conversation that are needing to take place where, maybe they were sensing a bit of jealousy on your part based on something to do with their career, something to do with their personality, with this kind of like personal charisma within themselves. They may in some way try to project a little bit of the blame, or, open the lines of a very real and kind of reciprocal discussion. As much as they're going to hear you out, they may also, really feel the need to sort of state their point, their position. They may have pulled away from you because they were sensing almost this, jealousy perhaps from you that was real or was imagined on their part. Maybe they're used to dealing with very kind of jealous people that are jealous of their success, people that, this kind of very charismatic personality, people that, were very kind of like suspicious or paranoid. They may have done things in their past that, cause that to be a very reasonable and rational sort of assumption. And it almost feels that kind of dealing with you in this situation, they almost just were like keeping this barrier or this wall up, assuming that, at some point, as is the case with like all people they had been dealing with, that there would be some kind of like resentment going on. So a bit of sort of like projecting upon you, making you almost suffer for what people in their romantic past or in kind of other aspects of their life had done at various points in time. But then there's also this clarity here that they missed the sweetness in this situation. They missed how this circumstance was a lot different from other people that they may have been dealing with in the past, and this desire to kind of like course correct in that manner. And they also say, I feel terrible for hurting you. So if they had been very kind of careless or callous in their words, very thoughtless, very oblivious to your needs, it again, there's been some kind of clarity here. There's been some kind of a reflection. Somebody may have really kind of like had a heart-to-heart discussion with them, clued them in some way. They could have had a fight or argument with somebody who kind of brought up this tendency within them, put things into perspective, and it kind of was just a domino effect for them about these tendencies and patterns within themselves, how this kind of like shadow aspect, maybe, you know, an overinflated ego, has really kind of served to their detriment in a lot of ways, including in this connection. So there's a lot of guilt and shame at having made you feel left out in the cold, maybe having pulled away from this situation, you know, feeling too pressured by the intensity or, you know, certain expectations, real or imagined, that were placed upon them in the connection. And there's this energy of, in the aftermath of all of that, they've really thought about things and wishing that they had taken a different approach, which is leading to this desire to try and work things out between the two of you. So definitely an apology, you know, which may kind of come with that. Like, I miss you and I'm sorry. That could be the long and the short of what they're having to say to you, that just kind of opens up those lines of discussion. And they also say, I am intimidated by you. So for some of you where this is like a very dominant, strong personality, they shine bright like the sun, it may be very surprising to hear that they are intimidated by you. But this definitely feels to talk about like your emotional side, your intuitive side, this very kind of like caring aspect of who you are that may be so different from people that they are used to dealing with. They may have grown up in a very competitive environment. They may work in a very competitive field. Just part of their personality is kind of like shining brightly, very, very outwardly. You know, a sense maybe even of deep insecurity within that is kind of causing them to push themselves to the extreme of shining that light very brightly at certain times. And there's a sense of calmness. There's a sense of tranquility. There's a sense of you, you know, shining your strength forward in maybe more of a quiet way, that in the past they had not valued this. They had not appreciated this. And now this is something that you know, they are seeing the worth of, and there's a bit of kind of fear to maybe have these discussions with you, to bring forth some kind of an apology, a sense of, you know, them really on some level having understood how they have neglected you up to this point in time, and maybe, you know, were very just kind of like rude or self-centered or narcissistic. Maybe they're still embodying a lot of these tendencies in some manner, and so it feels to be a bit of, you know, they're wanting to bring forth something, but because of that energy of being intimidated, it may just be, you know, very little that they can bring forth, kind of short and sweet, and so you may need to be the one to kind of take the lead in this situation and sort of teach them how to love, teach them how to have these discussions. This can be kind of that perfect stage for you to lay some boundaries or keep some boundaries in place to encourage this individual to kind of rise into that better version of self, to give more rather than you kind of like lowering that standard and settling for less, or kind of like getting back embroiled in old patterns with them once again. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Okay, we've got I, P, B, R, S, J, Q, U, X, and L. So let me hold those up for you. Want to screenshot those or take a look at them for a minute? So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop. And there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. The format over there consists of pick-a-cards and general energy readings related to topics such as spirituality, ascension, wellness, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out. I thank you for your support there as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 4. You chose the Obsidian point. So I'm going to start with some tarot to see who's headed your way, and then I'll get into oracle cards and message cards to see what they want to say to you. Okay, so we have the Four of Cups, which is water energy, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. Six of Cups, so more water energy. Nine of Pentacles, which is earth energy, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. The Hierophant, which is Taurus. High Priestess, which is Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. Four of Swords, which is air energy, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. King of Cups, so more water energy. And Three of Pentacles, which is earth energy, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. So with the High Priestess and the Hierophant, this can definitely be counterpart energy, high-level soulmate, twin flame, somebody you are in separation from, no contact with, that in the separation, in the silence, there's still a lot of telepathy that's going on, a lot of energy that is being exchanged between the two of you, kind of two people walking parallel paths on that ascension journey. Three of Pentacles can talk about a foundation between the two of you that necessarily needed to topple, needed to fall apart, and that in order to rebuild in some manner, it would require a different approach. So some kind of cycle, some kind of chapter or phase, maybe in who you are since you were last dealing with this individual. Your standards have changed. You've raised that vibration. What might have been kind of like an immature energy before, that it would take like solid evidence, it would take work, it would be needing to rebuild from the ground up, to revisit the situation from a new angle, from a new perspective. So this could be something even where the two of you are maybe just like coworkers or friends, or almost like a situation where you had like a period of time that you spent with one another that was very beautiful, but then that's come to an end, it's come to a conclusion. Maybe a lot of time has passed, and so it would require almost like getting to know one another again, or some kind of an energy of like the previous circumstances through which the two of you were relating to one another. Those are no more. So it's almost like a reintroduction direction in some manner, that again, you both are two very different people. You almost, it feels like, have been cultivating and working on some kind of abundance, some kind of goal in the material world. Maybe this is something that you discussed with this individual in the past. It's a sense of really even kind of like co-creating some abundance, which definitely applies to like twin flame situation, or even there's like past life soulmate energy here with this Six of Cups. So some kind of like shared mission, shared goal, shared kind of dream that the two of you may have had. Maybe you're working together in the energetic realms to achieve that. You had kind of waited for this individual to come back around. The door has been closed, those foundations have eroded, and it's something that you've been carrying forth in that direction nonetheless, kind of working with them in tandem energetically in your material sort of endeavors and efforts. This may have been somebody also with this Nine of Pentacles with kind of her back turned here, where they had, you know, this doesn't feel to be something that there might have been like a third party situation, but this could have been somebody who just kind of turned their back on the situation, chose to remain single, chose to remain very unattached, they were very overwhelmed by the nature of the connection, or were maybe very, you know, almost kind of like a long-term bachelor or bachelorette kind of energy, where the idea of sort of commingling their life with another after a period of time, after having been single for so long, just the idea of that was maybe very frightening to this person. They're very set in their ways, very comfortable in their own energy, and in kind of, you know, being very autonomous. This may have been something you were tasked with doing as well in the aftermath of kind of moving into a place of separation with this individual, is really coming into your own, taking your power back, standing in your truth and purpose. You may have been single for quite some time. You know, after dealing with this individual, or, you know, maybe if there were even kind of like other relationships after this person, it just feels like you've been in a period of time of really focusing on yourself, on your own personal healing, happiness, and growth. You know, Four of Swords can talk about a lot of like dreaming of one another, a lot of telepathy, a lot that is exchanged energetically while this connection is kind of on hold. If you are deliberately trying to tap into the energy, it may even be something where it's been a period of time to where kind of those signs have dwindled, the synchronicities have dwindled. Maybe you've been on this twin flame journey for quite some time, and almost like the newness of it, or the way in which you were so accustomed to feeling that, you've almost digested or acclimated it to it on some level. And it could also really tie into, you know, each of you again on this kind of like personal spiritual journey in some manner, to where the focus has just, it's been on yourself. You're not as kind of like fixated on sort of picking the connection apart. You know, you're not feeling your twin in quite the same energy that you had been feeling before. And that this is something that you're almost like you're okay with that. You're accepting of that. It's a lot of kind of trust in some kind of higher purpose in some manner. This idea of like the King of Cups really does speak about the embodiment of love. So this can be somebody who, you know, themselves consider themselves to be a light worker, or they're a very compassionate person. Someone who's very giving, someone who's very nurturing, someone who may also be a very emotional person, a very sensitive person, somebody who at one point in time may have really worn their heart on their sleeve, and that could have led to some disappointment and heartbreak. And almost when you were dealing with them, they may have been a little bit aloof, kind of closed off in some manner, really having almost... It feels like in a Zen-like way, but that could have almost just been an excuse where, you know, they were wanting to stay very detached, very committed to their spiritual path, very committed to just almost like waiting for the right one, but being a little too picky as far as, you know, what that would look like, kind of like a fixed idea on that reality of sort of who that partner would be, or when that would come in some level. Four of Cups can definitely, though, talk about, you know, that there could have been like third party interference in the situation in the past, something that, you know, the universe has provided some sort of other opportunity to move beyond. There was almost this choice maybe between like a karmic connection and choosing oneself, and that could have been a kind of a marker, a signifier of sort of the situation when you were dealing with this individual in the past. Maybe for both of you, maybe you were both in other relationships that were kind of toxic or low vibrational, or just, were not kind of like in the fulfillment of that better or best version of self. They had kind of run their course in some manner. And you both may have been tasked with, kind of extracting yourselves from those situations in order to really focus on self-love and growth. And so that may have been the decision, to either this person chose to remain with a partner for a period of time, and you were kind of forced to sort of go off on your own, learn to love yourself all over again, become kind of, comfortable in your own skin, in your own autonomy in some manner. Maybe this is somebody where that was vice versa, and you were trying to move out of a situation, and this person may have said that you needed kind of time for growth, you needed time for healing. They sort of rejected the cup of love you had to offer, and then you both find yourself kind of in these individual paths. It feels to be energies here of two people who are very intuitive, very psychic. Maybe this is somebody very spiritual. It almost seems to be kind of like a hidden spiritual aspect of themselves, though. So they may almost kind of have this alter ego about them that is that spiritual side, where they're living kind of a very practical and mundane existence, sort of, just working like at a routine sort of job. They may not be very kind of public or open about their spirituality in some manner, and yet it is this aspect and element of them that could be very kind of contradictory to that outside persona, very different from what other people around them sort of are relating to spiritually. For different reasons, there may even be a necessity to kind of like hide that or keep that behind closed doors in some manner, to not be very public about that, maybe due to family reasons, something that they do professionally, kind of like a fear of being judged, a particular place they live, or some kind of culture that they come from, where their beliefs, their practices and their ideas wouldn't necessarily be understood or accepted by those around them. So they had maybe made a decision to kind of closet that away, to sort of keep that very silent. You may represent kind of the opposite end of that spectrum, where you're very loud about this. This is very much a part of like your dominant outward personality in some manner. So that could have been kind of the point of contention, where this individual in the past, your twin flame, had decided that they couldn't link their life up with yours. There was almost like too much to risk. It was almost like for the protection of the connection, they needed to move in another manner, because they weren't sure how you would fit into one another's lives. Like bringing you forth in a more direct way would out them, in a sense, about a certain aspect of themselves, maybe related to spirituality, or some other component of like your relationship that they in some way perceived, or that other people around them may have actually kind of defined as like taboo in some manner. But it feels to be something where, again, it's like a longing, like a nostalgia. The idea of Six of Cups to Nine of Pentacles can talk about kind of a progression on your particular twin flame journey, your particular twin flame path, where you've already come into that energy of union, of reconciliation, of recognizing separation is an illusion from those higher self realms. And so you've moved forth on your journey with that understanding and knowledge. And again, two people kind of walking parallel paths. And then through the context of this reading right here of who's headed your way, this can definitely be that confirmation of this twin flame getting ready to reach out to you, getting ready to move towards you. The idea of Three of Pentacles, getting ready to work on things, to try and rebuild the circumstance, rebuild the situation, step forth into that high vibrational Emperor or Empress energy with that King of Cups right there. To stand more in that personal truth and authenticity of their feelings, the recognition of who you are, almost kind of, giving you that title in a very profound and definite sense, whether this is like a direct communication between the two of you, or something where they bring that out in a more broad sense. But again, it's this energy of like time that has gone by in dealing with one another, and kind of like a quiet phase, a phase of introspection, a phase where each of you have needed to kind of like come into your own spiritual gifts, your own spiritual power, your own kind of spiritual understanding. So kind of a path that has diverged from one another, that for, all intents and purposes in this reading, it feels like is getting ready to kind of converge with one another again. So I'm going to get some oracle cards to see what they want to say to you, and then I'll also get some higher self messages and then close it out with some initials. Okay, we have evolve, tranquility, the visionary, and window. So definitely with this energy of the visionary and window, this can involve them, telling you they know who you are to them. They know what their feelings are if they were confused in the past. They know what they want the future of this connection to look like. They know how their own kind of like fears and insecurities, or maybe even factors in the material world, a sense of overwhelm or even just energetic overwhelm by the intensity of the connection, and an awakening journey, a spiritual awakening, an ascension path both of you were triggered onto previously. There's a sense of them wanting to really communicate about these things, what they have learned along the journey, what they have learned along the road, what they have discovered and uncovered and been shown as far as the greater meaning and purpose about your connection with one another, wanting to kind of create a window of opportunity to see beyond the illusions, see beyond the fears, see if the two of you can come up with some kind of a solution to work things forward, an energy of wanting to clear the air between the two of you, wanting to bring forth some kind of peace, maybe telling you that they have found peace within themselves. They have found some kind of answer. They have found some kind of solution to what may have been a problem, or kind of an obstacle, or sort of a hindrance that you didn't even know was a factor for them, some kind of fear that they have really worked through. It's a sense of them really being in a better place. And again, this idea of evolve, it's tying into that Six of Cups, that what they want to say is they want a new chance. They want a new start. They want to grow and develop and evolve this connection so that it mirrors the change and evolution which has taken place within each of you on these parallel paths during the time that you have been apart with one another. Or apart from one another, but with one another. There's an energy here with this window of kind of like, the third eye and visions, and again, this clarity that they have gotten, wanting to discuss this with you, kind of this higher spiritual knowledge, some aspects of their life that have changed in some manner, maybe some dreams, signs, synchronicities that they've seen that in the past they had turned a blind eye to, but have now really started to take the time to digest, to research, to understand, a greater sense of awareness that they're wanting to provide you that kind of window inside of themselves to their motivations in the past, as well as what they are wanting to kind of create, or what they are understanding at this point is kind of the bigger purpose of this connection moving forward. It feels to be something with this energy of tranquility that, they don't necessarily want to rush back in and just sort of dive head first into that energy of romance, but it's kind of like starting small. It's kind of like reacquainting yourselves with one another once again. It's wanting to, create peace out of the turmoil and kind of the chaos of the past, wanting to make amends for that version of themselves that they were operating at when you were last dealing with one another. So that from the place of like a new plateau, a clean slate, you can both build in a new direction and explore that together very mutually and reciprocally. With the butterfly wings here on the evolve card, and those are monarch butterfly wings, so definitely can tie into the idea of like divine counterparts, divine masculine, divine feminine. This revelation that they know who you are to them. For a lot of you, this may even be using those words, counterpart, soulmate, divine masculine, divine feminine, my person, my forever one, or just whatever they're defining that as, the one I want to grow old with, the one I want to move forward with, the one who should be by my side. It's like giving a title to this, honoring this in some manner, but also the idea of, kind of like taking time with it, going into the cocoon, what they have learned in the distance and in the separation, and kind of emerging with this capability, this capacity to see the bigger picture in this circumstance, wanting to take things very delicately, very slowly in this situation, to course correct where you find yourselves currently in a new direction. Definitely wanting to, take into account kind of the fears and the obstacles of the past that had maybe put you into separation, sort of had torn you apart, wanting to make sure that these mistakes do not repeat this time around. And so again, sort of taking things slowly, working at a pace that is comfortable for the two of you, because although there's an energy here of clarity and revelation that they are wanting to bring forth, it's a sense of also knowing oneself and the nature of the spiritual kind of path of whatever has been sparked or awakened within this individual through having met you, and kind of what was triggered and what has been discovered in the separation and in the silence, that this is not a circumstance that can be rushed into, a sense of timelessness to this, understanding that they have all the time in the world, that time is really on your side in this circumstance, to take things slowly, to build very gradually, to press beyond each of your comfort zones at a very organic pace. So in order to kind of minimize future triggers, and in order to be able to almost kind of take in fully this new vibration, the wisdom of this new experience that is possible between the two of you from this point going forward. So I'm going to get some messages from their higher self now, and let's see what else they want to say. Oh, before I do that, this window can also talk about that they've been watching you. So this can be, like Page of Swords energy, or just even energetically, they're perceiving you in some manner. It feels that is along the lines of what they want to say to you. They have witnessed your growth. They have witnessed your transformation, your metamorphosis, your glow up in some manner, acknowledging that outright, and some aspect of that in tandem with their own kind of glow up and metamorphosis ties into this recognition that they have of who you are to them, what this connection is, even if there's still a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of mystery. It's this energy of, seeing the bigger picture in some manner, that this is a situation worth investing in. As difficult as it may seem, that there's a lot to be gained out of this circumstance. They're seeing your worth. They're seeing your true colors in a sense. They're seeing this better or best version of you, and it's very much an inspirational energy to them, and it feels like has been an inspirational energy for a period of time. They've either been watching you in the material world navigate through your journey, feeling into you energetically. Maybe other people, third parties, have been kind of like reporting back to them in some manner, dropping little tidbits, passing along little bits of information and news. They've been keeping tabs, they've been keeping track, they've been checking in. And so it feels like when this person approaches, they will definitely bring that to the surface. They'll call that out. They'll say, I have been watching this progress. I have seen you evolve in the following ways, and I now am in this place of certainty and clarity about what this connection is or what it might become. Whereas in the past, there was doubt, there was kind of a clouded vision, or it was an unknown. It was kind of like raw material that has now been formed or forged into something else, and kind of the necessity of needing that time apart for each of you to grow and evolve very individually to the place where then you can kind of work with one another. So see what else they want to say from their higher self. So we have secrets and deception. So this is really tying in for me with this idea that they've been watching for some time. They're very aware of what's going on in your life, or they have checked in on you periodically through the period of separation. If this is somebody who in the past had denied their feelings for you, had chosen to remain single, had said that they weren't interested in a relationship, weren't interested in you, weren't interested in commitment, that was definitely, an untruth. It had to do almost with the intensity of the connection, the energies between the two of you, needing this time apart, almost guided from their higher self to take some time in separate corners so each of you could grow individually, move beyond toxicity, move beyond deceptions and, things that weren't serving your highest good. And so it feels that, a lot of kind of what had been unknown would be brought to the surface, brought to the light. If this person follows through on this intent to head towards you, to speak some kind of truth, this is in the nature of what they're wanting to really present. Some motivations in the past as well, perhaps for kind of holding back from the situation, holding back from you, that in some way there's been ease that has been provided, their mind has been put to rest in some manner about some of the obstacles in the situation or just those unknowns, and instead of kind of leaning into that energy of holding back and of deceptiveness, there's this interest in kind of investing in truth and clarity. They also say, I abandon people to make myself feel important. So somebody who's kind of like in the hurt people category. A lot of wounding that they may have been dealing with in the time since you've been apart from one another. This could stem from, betrayal in kind of family situations. This could have to do with sort of earlier heartbreak that they had not necessarily gotten over, kind of keeping people at a distance, keeping their heart walled off from others, and, a sense of, maybe sort of thwarting the connection, being very callous or very abrupt in how they cut things off, not because there was anything wrong or lacking within you, but almost in a sense of being very self-protective of that pain within themselves. As uncomfortable as that is and was, it in some way felt like normal to them. But it feels like for a lot of you, this person has come to this understanding, that window and visionary. They've kind of gotten that clarity about some aspects within themselves. That's been part of their journey, is to at least have those aha moments about how they've been self-sabotaging and standing in their own way. And so kind of tying in with that idea of like the gradual progress that they are wanting to take in this situation moving forward, that they want to discuss, sort of taking things slowly, leaning out into this new terrain of relating with you or relating to somebody in kind of a romantic partnership as a result of the work that they have been doing to course correct in a lot of these aspects and issues within themselves. And they also say, you are always on my mind. So that is that confirmation of that telepathy, that Four of Swords energy. Even if things are very dormant, very closed off between the two of you, they still have a lot of mental energy directed towards you. They're watching you, they're picking up on you energetically, thinking about the plans for the future, strategizing. These may have been plans that they've been laying in place for quite some time, waiting for the right window of opportunity, the right moment to bring forth some kind of truth or revelation to you. They also say, I still have feelings for you. So again, definitely somebody who, denied, stuffed, or suppressed these things out of some insecurity within them, out of a sense of overwhelm at the intensity of the connection. A lot of regret that they have in the aftermath of that choice. But it has also provided an opportunity for a lot of personal growth for the two of you. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise with that. But definitely, if you've moved forward, but you still have a very soft spot in your heart for this person, they definitely have that for you as well. The longing is mutual. The sense of soul recognition is mutual. And for a lot of you, this is really the indicator of this individual stepping forth in more of that heart-centered way to address these things, these feelings, this connection in a more outward and profound manner than they had in the past. They also say, will you ever make things right? So this may kind of be a two-way street between, you know, the two of you needing to provide apologies to one another, to really mend these fences, you know, mend the bridge between the two of you that had been burned. There could be a little bit of a sense of them holding back because they're not sure if you would reject them, if you'd be open to discussing things. A sense that even if they're watching or they've been kind of, you know, researching you, hearing about you, tapping into you energetically, there's not this certainty as far as like, is the time right? Have we missed this window of opportunity? Can this situation be course corrected? Are you interested, open, and available to kind of repair the circumstance? So a bit of kind of like waiting right on the brink of almost like knocking on your door. It feels that they're very close to you, energetically speaking. With that energy that was coming through with kind of things had sort of like gone dormant or had been kind of like dull as far as the energy between the two of you are concerned. You may have recently started like having more dreams about this person, feeling them energetically, a sense of anticipation, or even kind of like, you know, somebody sort of like lurking around energetically speaking. That can definitely be this confirmation of, you know, this individual wanting to reach out, wanting to take that step, wanting to make that move forward, but holding back as well. Like, are you even interested in repairing this? Or is this just something where we need to continue forward for the rest of our days and kind of this energetic union with this 3D distance between the two of us? Like, can we course correct? Can we repair? Is this something that you're on board with as well? And they also say, I want you back. So another confirmation of, you know, reconciliation, wanting to make up for the past, wanting to make up for lost time, wanting to get to know one another again, in this new vibration, in a more open, honest, and heartfelt way than had been the case between the two of you in the past. Or if this is somebody that had kind of rejected that cup of love, had chosen to remain very single, had kind of, you know, let fear sort of be the dominant factor that had swayed them away from investing in the partnership with you. This is something where they've regretted that. It feels that there's been a lot of regret that they've gone back and forth about over time, maybe over years or months since you were last dealing with one another, and they are finally kind of getting to this place of pushing past those last kind of barriers of fear to at least reach out, try something, take things very slowly to try and restore the balance, restore the peace in this situation. You know, not just in the interest of kind of like making amends and closing the door, but this is the energy of wanting to build, wanting you back in their life, wanting another chance, wanting another opportunity. To do things right, to do things again, or to do things for the first time between the two of you, as you should have initially or at some other point in time. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Okay, we've got N, U, M, K, S, D, L, F, P, and Y. Hold those up for a minute if you want to screenshot those or take a look at them. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. The format over there consists of pick-a cards and general energy readings related to subjects such as spirituality, ascension, wellness, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out. I thank you for your support there as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.